Welcome to Fitz Painting Repairs Garage. Today's project, continue working on the 1986 Honda Shadow VT700c. We're working on rebuilding the carburetors. Specifically, we had an issue with the diaphragm slide when we changed the motor and attempted to reinstall the carburetors. Originally, we had damaged the carburetors by poking a hole through them, and which damaged the slide. And we had repaired it with some silicone RTV and put it all back together, but we had some issues with highway speed performance, lack of top end speed, and whatnot. But that was, when we had the sidecar attached to it, she just didn't really want to go above 60-65 mile an hour. She was really struggling. So we pulled it down to do this change. Now on this particular machine, to get the carburetors out, it's got a twin carburetor setup on it. She sits on these little boots here. You got these little tiny boots that go right here on this. They go right here on the spigots. The carburetor sits down on top of those. And then you got these that hang up here. And they go right up. See them spigots? They slide up in there. You push it all the way up in, and then you can get the carburetors in there, and then you got to put them lower boots in. And big pain in the butt. Now these things right here are unavailable anywhere. Cannot find them. See how it's smaller on the top, smaller diameter on the top than it is on the bottom? And it's got a slight little bend in it. And these also have to be rated for fuel and for heat because they sit around top of the heads, right? Cannot find these anywhere. Alright, this one here is in fairly decent shape. I've had the silicone just a little bit on it, but this one over here, my other one, is in really bad shape. It got split out on the inside up in there, right there. It cracked, and so I think probably what the problem was is the diaphragm really wasn't causing the problem. The carburetor was just running super lean because of that crack. It just wasn't sealing properly. So we're gonna have to come up with something, try to fix that. We're gonna put it all back together with that, and see what we can do. Unfortunately, to get these carburetors out, you almost have to remove the engine. This frame rail here goes on this side, comes out. You got to remove the front, the radiator, the front motor mount. Take out the top rear motor mount, which is right there. Loosen the bottom rear motor mount, and then lower the motor down, and it tilts down and away so that you got room to get them carburetor out. You got tiny amount of room, not even maybe a 1/16 of an inch clearance to be able to get that out. Now, here's the carburetors, guys. Right here. We got the carburetors here. Dual carburetor setup, opposed. And yeah, there it is right there. Tiny little hole got poked in it. And so we repaired it with some silicone RTV. Oh, I ordered a new set. Now, unfortunately, I cannot find online the slides with the diaphragm already installed. Now for the 83 through 85 model Honda Shadow 700, you can get the slides already installed and everything. Now what I purchased these online. They're very flimsy. See how easy that just came off there? Now originally you had these clips on there. You had one here and one here on there, and the diaphragm sandwiched in between these two clips. That's how it came at factory, and that was press fit on there. Well, you had to snip these to get this off to replace this, and then when you put this on, it's supposed to fit, but that's so, I don't know if that's gonna work, man. It might work, I don't know. I haven't put it back together, I haven't tried it. I'm a little concerned that's going to fail. And if that's a failure point, that means I'm got to go through the 4 hours of labor to remove the carburetors again. And then to put it all back together. Big pain in the butt, because you really can't access this stuff with it on the bike. So, and the big difference between the 83 through 85 and 86, now I can't find the specs in regards to this diameter, but the diameter might be different. Now these are different part numbers on these carburetors, although they do appear to be exactly the same. The intake ports, your breather side and your motor side seem to be the same. But what I'm finding is the big difference is these holes here. See how this one's got 3 holes in it? The center one's for your needle to come down through, and then these are your vacuum lift holes. Alright. On the 83 through 85, it's only got 1 hole. This one's got 2. So I think that's the big difference in it. I haven't verified it yet. Anybody out there has got that information, let me know. So what we're going to do is we're going to reassemble the bike, or reassemble the carburetor set, and then we're going to manually actuate the slide. And we're going to just, lift it up with our finger, push it up and down. It should have some resistance like that. It should push up and down, and it should return. You should have an even slide up and down, but you should feel some resistance. And then afterwards, what we will do is we're going to simulate a dynamic test by manually opening the butterflies, your throttle plates inside here. We'll manually operate all that stuff with everything reassembled. You just turn them manually, and then what you do is right here in the throat of the carburetor, you get some compressed air, and you just blow it in the hole, and that should lift your slide. You should have that slide lift, right? And we'll do it by manually manipulating everything, blowing the air in it, and then we'll have to remove this and check everything to see if everything worked, if everything stayed together like it's supposed to. Now, I did order a new set of a complete carburetor kit. Now, the diaphragms came separately. I couldn't find the whole kit with the diaphragms and everything, but I got a 2 carburetor kit set up right here online, and comes with pretty much everything. You got new needle, a new everything, in here, gaskets, O-rings, main jet, pilot jet, float needle, float valve seat, shims for the needle. Everything comes in there. But the problem is none of the jets are marked. They're not labeled what size they are. So I don't know what size they are. Factory setting is a 40 is what it calls for in the book. When I open mine up, I have a 42 pilot jet, and the main jet, pilot jet. I mean, this is your main jet, pilot jet. All right, these are marked. I know what size these are, but the new ones, they're not marked. So we're probably going to go ahead and use the originals that I have, because they're in decent shape. They're clean. They're good to go. They're not quite as shiny, but they're clean. They're good. I've had these carburetors opened up before. But the reason I had to buy all of this was to get this float bowl gasket. This is the original float bowl gasket that's been in this carburetor since 1986. Both of them. One of them I had to RTV a little bit to keep it from leaking. And once you remove the float bowl so many times and put it back on, that thing gets smashed out. And the way to tell if it's going to seal properly, it goes down in this little groove on the float bowl. This goes on right here, and it goes down in this little groove. And what you do is you just kind of run your finger across the groove. It should stick up above the flat surface, and if it doesn't, if it's right at it or just below it, it's not going to seal properly. It needs to be replaced. So that's where we're at. I was suspecting, you know, what I was having a problem with was I had one cylinder running rich, one cylinder running lean. And I do believe what the problem was that rubber boot was leaking. So that one side was super lean, and it being super lean like that, you know, who knows. But then I was suspecting, you know, possibly my float level height was off, but once I got it apart and checked it, it was right on spec, right where it's supposed to be, you know. So hopefully it was just that boot. Hopefully everything goes back together, but this is my main concern, the slide diaphragms. There's nothing holding this on here. Nothing. So, you know, you got this top flange saying, you know, the information I got online, I looked online, different places, you know, on how to rebuild these, you know, and they told me, you know, I had to snip these off and put this on. And then in the conversation, he was saying how you had to make sure this thing fit in a little groove. Well, there's a giant groove on this one. So, I don't know. I might end up having to RTV that to it. I might end up having to take this off, smear a little RTV on there and put it on. Main thing that you got to look out for when you reinstall these is make sure you have this little tab right here sticks out. You got to line it up with the hole that's on there, the little lift hole. And easiest way to do that is to figure out where it goes on there. See, it goes and it covers this little thing right there. So you just kind of line that up, get that in there like it's supposed to be, and then you just line that up. Alright, and then lift it back out of there. Take your little marker, mark it, take it off, smear some RTV on it, put it back on, let it dry for a while. So that might be the solution that I have to do, because these little clips and stuff you can't get, and I can't find this piece anywhere for the 86, 87 model, possibly 88 model as well. 86, 87 was a 700cc, and then in 88 they went up to 800 because of that tariff thing, you know, so they were able to go above a 700cc finally, because originally they used to be a 750cc, but because of the Harley Davidson tariff and the fighting and combating, you know, the metric imports during that time, which would have been the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, they were fighting in a small displacement. To avoid the tariff, Honda just dropped it from a 750 down to a 700, and it's actually 696, I believe, 696 or 694 cc's. But I can't get these clips anywhere. I can't reuse these because the only way to get them off is to cut them, to break them. So a little concerned about that. We're going to put it all back together and we're going to see where it goes from there. Stay tuned. We're also working on a few other little things on the bike. We're thinking about possibly putting the hand shifter back on the bike. I've got it installed temporarily for right now. I got to get the foot clutch setup back out, because I built a foot clutch setup for this thing using a Kawasaki rear brake assembly, and I had it mounted on here and I had it working quite well, but I was having trouble, you know. I'm used to riding two-wheel bike with a hand clutch, you know. I'm just got to where, you know, I was forgetting to put that left foot down, you know, I would put the left foot down and not engage the clutch, and I would stumble up to a stop sign. The bike would die. So I took it off and put the regular one back on. But now that I've got the sidecar package that I've had on this bike, and I will be putting it back on, I don't have to put my feet down. That helps out a lot. So we're going to reassemble this thing, and as you see, man, this thing is jacked up. It is boogered up, but you know, hopefully it remains solid. You know, it's not splitting right now. I've got it sealed. I'm going to put another light little coat on it and let that dry today before I reassemble it. And hopefully everything goes back together the way it's supposed to. Front disc got changed out on it, so we got a brand new front disc on here. The shifter, we're gonna put the foot clutch setup on it. I removed the rear tail light, brake light assembly, which I used to have mounted right here, and the reason being is because I added a rear seat pylon to this. Now I have to take the rear fender off, and I have to rebuild this lower mount, and I'm going to beef it up, make it a lot stronger. Right now I got a real thin 16 gauge, I think that is on there, and so I'm going to go to a an 1/8 inch angle iron and build a new set of brackets for that, and that way it'll be a lot stronger, because that's really what holds this, because there's no side rail support. You know, those got cut off. You know, my daughter's gonna ride back there. You know, she's 7, almost 8. So it shouldn't be a whole lot of weight, but I want to make it so that, you know, 150 pound person can jump on there without a problem and go for a ride. We've got a couple brackets that we're gonna work on to fix. We got these brackets that I built here, my sidecar mount, my foot peg mount. I got to trim it down, clean it up and make it look a little better. And then I also have this mount here, which you see all the red markings on it. It mounts up in here on the foot peg thing, and that's the front lower bracket for the sidecar. You can see all the red paint on it. That's where she's got to be trimmed and shaved down. It's rubbing on the exhaust right there, and that corner needs to be rounded down a little bit. Right here I need to, you know, just make a little bit of clearance, you know, issues and whatnot. So that's the project we got going on right now, and we should be reassembled by the end of the day and fired up, see how she's running. That's the goal. Stay tuned.